Welcome to the Weekly Whiff, Season 2, and we're not counting episodes anymore because we want to keep things non-linear and punchy. How you doing, Shaun? How's lockdown treating you, brother?
It's pretty good. You know, it's a lockdown. I don't get to do anything fun. Can't go out. Just playing games all day, so I'm doing fun things, I guess.
University treating you well?
Yeah. I won't talk about uni too much on the pod. People
That's
don't
fair.
need to know I'm studying. I don't want anyone from my uni to figure out where I am as well somehow.
That's entirely fair. Yeah, no, we don't want crazy stalkers coming after you and your luscious beard.
It'd be quite stunning to me if someone came up to me and said that I followed a Weekly Whiff and I'm stalking you. I'd be quite stunned, honestly.
I would too.
I'd be like,
man.
that is
hilarious.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And then I'd call the police.
Yeah, fair enough. Gonna start hiring bodyguards. And wearing sunglasses, bro.
Mm-hmm.
You know, in public at nighttime, indoors.
Yeah, acting way too important for what I actually am.
Yeah.
It's like, I run a channel. I don't know if you heard of it. 36 subscribers to Weekly Whiff.
It's the fucking big deal over here.
Yes, I know.
Okay, yeah.
Kind of a big shot.
I'm an entrepreneur.
Well, I've stroked my ego in like 2 minutes of the first episode, so that's probably
okay,
a milestone.
Bro. Yeah, nice work. Let me know if you want me to keep going and finish you off. Homosexual subtext. Fun times. Is that one of our topics for today, Shaun? What are we talking about?
I don't know. You need to do the intro first. That was probably a topic I had on there.
I did the intro.
We haven't talked about a week, sir.
Okay.
We haven't done an episode in 5 months and we fall apart.
Yeah, dude. I don't know. If we keep it
How's your week, Pete? How is your week? How is your week since the last episode?
My week since the last episode's been pretty mad, dude. I've been getting very invested in Dungeons and Dragons. I'm about to start a new game with a bunch of my friends. I've never played before, so I'm like a D&D virgin, and I'm super excited to get in there. And I was hanging out with him last night. We played some cardboard crack. Busted out the Magic the Gathering, which is really fun. It's even more fun when you're playing like a busted dragon deck and you're like half a bottle deep of vodka.
Pete's officially a nerd.
Oh, dude, I can see why people get into it, man. I really can. I just don't want to do it myself because I'm going to get into trouble. Like I really am going to get into trouble. Not careful.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. So I'm really basically just shilling for Wizards of the Coast at this point. I'm trying to get into all their lore, figure out how all this sort of stuff works, and I might be thinking about setting up my own D&D game later on, but that's to be announced, and possibly might not happen.
You have to have a reflection episode on your D&D experience after that, see what you think of actually playing a game or something. You obviously won't have to talk about what you guys did, because that might some of the people you're playing with might not like that or whatever, but...
Oh, they might like it, they might not like it.
I'd be keen in hearing your opinion on like your first session. My first D&D session was a lot of fun. Awesome. I'm pretty sure like I split someone's head, like I exploded someone's head by smashing a hammer down in front of them, but because I rolled so high, the force like imploded their head from the shockwave. It was pretty gnarly.
That's pretty sick.
Yeah, they were like an innocent civilian.
Oh. Okay. That's slightly less sick, bro.
Yeah, it was solely a flex.
Fair enough. So I've been getting into sort of just D&D and concepts and learning about the rules and how everything sort of works and character building and everything else. It's really cool, man. And I'm super keen to start it, so I will report back and let you know how it goes. Nice. And how was your week, man? How's your week been?
It's been fun, you know. Amongst all the studies I've been doing, I've been playing like a shit ton of games. I feel like been watching like movies as well whenever they come out. I've been watching Disney movies recently. I've been going through like a bunch of them. I don't know what spurred it, but I was just like, I'm going to go through a bunch of the classic Disney films and finally watch a bunch of them. And I watched like a bunch. I don't know what Disney films you like. I don't know if you do like Disney films. I think you're like the edgelord that hates all of Disney, right?
No.
No,
dude. Tangled is one of my favorite movies ever.
Which one?
Tangled, 2010.
Tangled.
3D animated.
I haven't watched that one yet. That is on my list to watch though. I watched Hercules.
I haven't seen that before. I don't think I've ever seen that. Yeah.
Hercules is a fun movie. I also watched Mulan, the original, which I think is fucking great. I think Mulan's a kick-ass movie. Cool. I don't know if you hate it, but I like it. I don't remember.
It's been ages. Eddie Murphy's the dragon in that movie.
I think so, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
The other animated character that he's known for.
Yes. I watched Aladdin as well for the first time.
You've never seen Aladdin?
I hadn't seen Aladdin, no.
Oh, dude, it's so good.
It is really good. It's super, super good.
Yeah.
I don't even know what spurred it. Just one day I woke up and I was like, I want to watch Disney films. And I just watched a bunch of Disney films.
You got Disney Plus, obviously, and jumped on there.
One of my friends did, and I'm just stinging on
it. Oh, cool. Yeah, hey, man. Why not? Also, I'm just going to, as a side note, talking about Disney Corporation, its various subsidiaries. Black Widow sucks a massive fucking show.
Oh, did you see it? I haven't
Yeah.
seen it yet. I have no intention to see it.
I wouldn't recommend, but we can get into that later. Cool, man. It's cool to hear on a Disney kick. I figured that you'd already sort of been into it, but no, if you've never
No.
like touched it before,
The only
that's
Disney
sick.
film like I'd actually ever watched as a kid was The Lion King, and I loved it a lot. I plan to rewatch
Same.
that during my
Oh my
watch as
gosh, I
well.
watched it so much. I watched that
I
movie
watched
so
it
much.
like a criminal amount. Like I watched a lot. I watched a lot of weird movies as a kid. Though I used to watch The Truman Show all the time, which is such a weird movie for a kid to like. I don't know why I watched it so much.
It's very cathartic ending.
Yeah, I guess it's a great movie. I stand by that movie a lot. Even nowadays, I'm still like, it's fucking fantastic. But
yeah, dude, Jim Carrey's such a fantastic actor.
yes, he's really good.
Yeah,
He's very
cool.
Underappreciated, in my opinion. I see a lot of people say he's just a comedic actor, but I think he's got some good serious.
It's got fantastic range. Yeah,
really he's great range. In I watched like Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, which is in as well, and that's a fantastic movie, and he's really great in that.
Okay.
It's a good movie. It's depressing though, so just be warned.
No, that's fair. That's okay.
It's a very kind of movie.
Yeah, is what it is.
But yeah, that's been my week.
What games have you been playing, dude?
More of a year. I've been playing so fucking many. Like holy shit! I played through BioShock recently, like the trilogy, for the first time. Those games.
I think I've only played Infinite. I don't think I've played the first or the second one.
I like Infinite a lot, but I do not think it's as good as the first two, which might be a hot take because the second one's pretty mixed in opinion. But I think Infinite is more of an action shooter than it is like a survival horror game, which the first one is, and I think the first one's fucking great. It's like probably one of the few first-person shooter games I played where I actually enjoyed it the whole way through.
It's because it's got some dynamic range in the gameplay. Like you can do different things. There's a lot of creativity.
Infinite has a lot of fun stuff that you can do.
The first one, I mean, I think from what I've seen of the first one, like you've got a lot of options.
Absolutely.
You can do a lot of different things. Infinite weirdly reminded me of Dishonored. I don't know why.
That's a fair comparison, honestly. There were points where I was playing it where I was actually like, I'm getting Dishonored feels from this, honestly.
Yeah,
I agree with that. That's a fair assessment. Besides that, though, I think you'd be happy to know that you have turned me into the biggest fighting game cuck there is right now. Because ever since that Tekken episode, it's just a slow descent where I've been playing more and more. I've been playing so fucking many. I've got like, if I open up my PS4, I think one like a month ago or something when I wasn't playing a bunch of random games, it was just the whole lineup was just fighting games basically. Like it was just
really.
I really like. Actually, that just reminded me of something. Guess what I've been playing? Guess what I played for the first time? Like, and I actually bought recently.
Something I'm into.
It'll kill you. It'll kill you to hear me say that I've been playing this.
I'm trying to think. Oh, what do you absolutely fucking hate? What do you really, 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 really hate? I can't imagine it'd be Age of Empires. Is it an RTS like real time strategy?
No, it's a fighting game.
Oh, Dead or Alive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I got another game. I can't even remember what I got with it at this point. But I got like there was a game I wanted to get, and Dead or Alive 6 was like on sale as well. And if I got it with the other game, it'd be like cheaper. So I was like, well, I may as well. I played Dead or Alive. I played Dead or Alive 6 with my housemate. I'm going to break the degeneracy here for a second and just ignore all the degeneracy stuff. That game's pretty fun on its own. Like it's actually a pretty fun 3D fighter in my opinion. It is just incredibly degenerate.
Dude, I haven't played. I think I played. Was it last round? Was it 5? Dead or Alive 5.
I am completely new to Dead or Alive.
No, that's fine. I only played one of them, and I had no idea what I was doing. I was just button mashing and drinking. The entire time.
No, I absolutely was with my friend as well, and we were just having a blast. Like the whole time, we like went through almost every character, and like by the end of it, we were like, "This is just fucking fun." Like this was just a lot of fun. Like a game that I got as a joke is actually kind of enjoyable to play. Incredibly degenerate though.
Yeah. No, I remember one time. Look, I was trying to relate to you when we first met. It was like after a while, and we'd gone out to Picasso's, right, and we were coming back, and I was saying, like, oh, yeah, I played fighting games and Dead or Alive. And then you just started, like, rinsing me, dude. Like, you just pulled both the triggers on that shotgun. You were just like, oh, you played Dead or Alive? Oh, okay, so you're a man of culture, are you? Like, just rigging my shit up, you know?
I remember one time, like, you had, like, Tekken Tuesdays or something where you, like, would play a game, like, Tekken with a bunch of people. And I remember you were like, Sean, would you ever come down? Like, the only time I'm coming down is you turn into Dead or Alive Tuesdays. And you're like, that's not happening. And I just walked away.
Yeah, that's shit. You were just like, nah.
That's all I remember of it. But yeah, I've actually, now that I got into fighting games, I've actually played it. It's pretty fun.
Yeah, dude.
Out of all the games I played, Guilty Gear is my favorite, though.
The new one? Have you been playing the new one?
I've been playing the new one. I've got the new one. The new one's
Okay.
fun. It's very beginner friendly. I don't like some of the changes to some of the characters' rosters, but Exert is really good. I love Exert. It's
That's
like
the last one, isn't it? The one before the new one.
Yes, I think I've got like 100 hours in it now. I had like 100 hours in it, like within like a month of playing it. It was like ridiculous. I was playing it too much.
Yeah, no, that's cool though, dude. That's really cool. Like, that you're into that. 2D is like it's a thing that I can't do, or at least I just haven't sat down and properly tried to learn how to do it. And it's because it's like Tekken's quite complex, but at the same time it's very simple.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas that sort of Japanese 2D fighting game, the way it operates, you've got jumps, double jumps, you got like sweep cancels, power bar super moves, combo super moves, and if you're playing a game with multiple characters, then it becomes like tagged in, tagged out type stuff, and it gets really gnarly really fast.
Exert is pretty intense as well. Like a lot of characters feel like different like entirely like different play styles, but I love it. I think it's great. A bunch of my friends that I play fighting games with actually wanted to get Tekken, so I might end up getting Tekken, and if we do, I'll let you know and we can play it together.
Yeah, dude, I left my PS4 back in prison.
You just really you went from one cell to another cell.
Yeah, dude, I went from like a refugee to the point, like escaped from my state, and I'm like, I'm good. No, I left all my gear behind, so I'm just sort of vibing at the moment. But when I get back down there, dude, and I'll find my PS4, I have no idea where it is. We'll jump back in for sure.
We'll definitely have to, yeah.
And we'll set up a lobby, dude. It's fun. Like you can just you just throw a whole bunch of people in, and there's like since we played, there's like 3 new characters and like a whole bunch of different
one of the new characters
stuff.
actually looked super awesome, so it actually made me want to play it.
Kunimitsu.
One of the new characters looked super awesome.
Yeah, Kunimitsu's the one, right? That's the one you're thinking of.
Is that the president?
No, sorry. Kunimitsu's the little ninja cat girl with the knife.
No, I'm not that degenerate.
Okay.
Come on.
Sorry, just I mean, you're a Dead or Alive fan now, so
I want the muscly Russian female president character to play. That's my kind of degeneracy.
What I was gonna say.
I don't know if she actually is Russian, so if someone's like mad that I called her Russian, I'm sorry.
She's Polish, dude.
Oh crap! Sorry, that's the worst one I can.
Russia, Poland, they kind of got this thing going on, but yeah. That's awesome to hear, man. I'm really glad that you're sort of joining the ranks. I figured just because like, and this is just a sort of side note, but there's a real connection, I swear, between people who like Dead or Alive style hack and slash games and fighters, because they're just very, very technically the skill set.
You mean DMC or Dead or Alive?
Okay, sorry. I meant DMC, man. I meant Devil May Cry.
He said Dead or Alive hack and slash. I was like, what?
Sorry.
They're similar, like 3 words. First name's D, like starts with D. It makes sense. It was just funny picturing a Dead or Alive hack and slash.
Well, that'd be kind of amusing. To play that.
I do agree there is a connection there. I see a lot of people that say DMC is what kind of got them into fighters, actually, and I think I can agree with that. Playing DMC made me revisit it like fighters because I was like, I've been learning a lot of combos, platinuming all these games.
I was talking to a mate of mine. I was like, yeah, so he's just like, DMC 5, and he platinumed the whole thing, and they just sort of looked at me and went, what? And I was like, yeah. And it's like,
I platinumed it twice. Yeah, I did like the special edition as well.
Went through the hardest difficulty, like where you die in one hit, and then like learn how to do all the absolutely gnarliest combos to get like triple S rating and everything. I was like, yeah, he platinumed it. Like he finished it off. And I was like, he doesn't have a life. I was like,
I do not disagree with that.
Anyway, that's what I heard. That was the summation. I was like, okay, dude, is what it is. Awesome. But so we had some topics lined up that you wanted to discuss, Shaun.
Yes,
it's awesome. I'm glad to hear you've been on top of it. So you brought everything to mind. So let's get started, man. What do you want to discuss?
Right. I've got a good topic for the start. So I actually found out about this months ago.
Okay.
And the second I saw it, I had to ask you about it. So I've been waiting for us to record an episode solely so I can just talk about this for a bit, actually.
Get it?
So I was on IMDb looking through a few movies and all of that. And I saw that there is a Sherlock Holmes free plan not directed by Guy Ritchie. And I was incredibly curious about what you thought about that. Because
Holmes what?
Sherlock Holmes free. So like a sequel to the first 2, like the Guy Ritchie films, but Guy Ritchie will not be directing the 3rd one.
What?
Yeah.
I haven't heard about this.
I didn't think so. I don't know if it's really like they've got a set date or something, but it's on IMDb and I saw that, and apparently like they had a director plan for it as well. But like it's been acknowledged that if it is made, Guy Ritchie wouldn't be directing it. There may be people that know more about this than I do. I don't think he's writing it either. I think it is just someone else. It has got Robert Downey Jr. and Jude Law.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've been waiting about like 10 years. I'm not even kidding at all. I think that I think that Game of Shadows came out in 2011. Is that right?
I think so.
Pretty
I'll
sure
check right
2011
now.
movie.
Oh, I've got the IMDb page open right now.
That's
So
okay. Yeah, Game of Shadows I think came out in 2011.
yep, 2011.
Yeah, so 10 years I've been waiting for one of these films, a sequel to those films. 10 years. And the fact that it's not getting directed by Guy Ritchie. Man, I've been on a Guy Ritchie kick like you would not believe lately. I've also been getting into a lot of Shane Black movies. Yeah, that's just criminal, dude. To be honest with you, I just think that's absolutely shocking. I really, really enjoy Guy Ritchie as an actor, as a director, rather. As a director, as a writer. Like, he's got some fantastic ideas. And look, it'll be like, no, it's
Just
no.
no.
I'm making a comparison in my head, but I'm just realizing it's a terrible comparison. But it's like Peter Jackson coming back to the Middle Earth world and then making the Hobbit trilogy after Lord of the Rings. Like, that's a bold statement, and like Guillermo del Toro was supposed to direct those films, and then he sort of didn't, and then Peter Jackson took it back over again. But dude, like,
Yeah.
come on, the original had so much flavor, so much good dialogue, witty writing.
I think I said in like the Sherlock Holmes video that we did ages ago anyway, in case anyone hasn't listened to it, go listen. I'll plug the old episodes as well. But I think I said that I'm already kind of against the idea of a third one by default. Like, I don't really think it needs one. I'm very much more against the idea of a third one not directed by Guy Ritchie.
Yeah, I'm doubly against that, dude. I would watch a third one because I'm just like that. I like sequels.
Yeah.
And there's an entire science behind sequels generally, dude. I don't know if you've heard about the sequelitis.
Before we go into that, I just did want to confirm that he is not
Yeah.
a writer, and the director is a guy called Dexter Fletcher. I don't know if that's
No idea who that is.
I think I saw that he's apparently worked on Guy Ritchie films with him before, so maybe that's why.
Okay, might be one of his camera. Like, it was a B team camera, B team, whatever it is.
Yeah. Either way, I kind of look at that. I'm like, that's an interesting choice. But you if you want to talk about sequelitis for a bit.
Oh no, that's just like, but it's just sort of riffing off what you were saying earlier. There shouldn't be a third one. And past a certain point, if you're looking at the quality of the movies, I mean, we went back and watched them again, together, and I think that you're right. Game of Shadows isn't as strong as the first one.
Yes, I still. Yeah.
Because you always run into that sort of problem with the sequel, and you know about this though. Like,
yes,
how many movies or shows where the second season or sequel is better than the first, and they're not part of the same story.
And they're not part of the same story.
Yeah, so it's not like a continuation.
It's not like a part 2 or something. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can't think of many. For some reason, the only one I can think of right now is Shrek 2.
Shrek 2 is a really good It's a good example of that.
Yeah, it's a good sequel, but it's very rare. There's like so few sequels. John Wick 2 is another one in my opinion, but I know some people are mixed on that. I prefer the second one. I don't like the third one as much now.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's just hard to, for the most part, unless you've got a plan written for it.
I mean, there have been examples though, like where,
I mean, like, I love 28 Days Later, but I absolutely fucking despise 28 Weeks Later as a sequel because I think it is completely uncharacteristic of 28 Days Later in so many ways.
it's a huge tone shift, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's just like an action zombie movie, whereas 28 Days Later is actually trying to be smart and do something with this setting.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, what do you reckon it is that makes sequels really hard to make? Like, what is
a matter of, like, I honestly think it's just a matter of pandering for the most part, or like in some kind of extent can influence it, where they're making a sequel because people want it, and because people want it, I don't think they have a good idea of it, I guess is the thing. And they're not trying to do anything with it. I think that is like what will make a sequel bad. Are they trying to do anything with it? If they're not, then it just ends up feeling like a kind of soulless continuation of the story. Like, I'm trying to think of a good example right now, but I can't think of anything. I can think of his Book of Shadows, but I don't think Book of Shadows is that bad. I think like there was a plan. I'm just not as interested in Book of Shadows is the problem, because I find the first one to be more fun.
Game of Shadows, I mean, Sherlock Holmes.
Sorry, I don't know why I said Book of Shadows. Yeah,
that's all
Shadows. What's a sequel I fucking hate? Like, 28 Weeks Later. That's let's turn this into a fucking pod where I talk about 28 Days Later for an hour.
Yeah, okay.
So yeah, 28 Days Later is a great film. It's got a great idea. It's got a great setting, exploring Jim's characterization throughout the apocalypse. 28 Weeks Later is more oh man, people really like 28 Days Later. Let's make another one with a bigger budget. And getting a bigger budget, they kind of lose a lot of the charm of the original one, where it feels like it's kind of got this handheld survivor kind of cam footage that's going on for it when it's directed like that. And in the second one, it's very high quality, and it's just because they've got a bigger budget, they can get more zombies, and because they got more zombies, we may as well shoot more zombies and have more blood and guts and all that. And it just feels like a kind of dull action film that's just kind of a shell of what the original was. And there's no interesting like kind of philosophies explored in the second movie. It's just kind of all very
Spectacle.
basic. Yeah, I think even The Matrix, to an extent, is kind of like that as well. Like the second one, I think is a little bit better than the third one, like because it's still got some philosophical ideas, but for the most part, they're kind of just focusing on the action, and none of the like philosophical ideas or the things that made the original great are really put on display. You've seen The Matrix, right?
I have, of course, seen The Matrix, dude.
Yes,
Yeah.
I was gonna say.
Went
Have you
deeper.
seen
Went
this?
deeper. What doing? I've seen
Have
all
you?
of them. Yeah.
Yeah. I watched like all of them, like I think last year as well or something. And yeah,
Oh,
I think the first one's great, but the sequels they just kind of lose sight of what they originally were, or what like makes like the first one good, I guess.
yeah. That's entirely fair, man. So, can I offer an example of something where, like, there's just so many sequels it kind of gets out of control? Like, I mean, Fast and
Yep.
Furious comes to mind, right?
Yes, Fast and Furious. Yeah.
There's 9 of them now, plus all the offshoots,
I
spin-offs.
think so.
Everything
Yeah,
that's
I think
going
the
on.
ninth one's coming out soon. I think.
Yeah, or he's out or something like that. Yeah, he's just straight up like come out of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
And there's just it exploded, and each sequel takes itself like slightly less serious than the last. Each sequel has more action. Each sequel has crazier stakes, more stuff going on. We're saving the world. We're going up against super soldiers. We're bringing in The Rock. We've got John Cena in the next movie. He's Vin Diesel's brother for some reason. It just keeps getting more and more and more overblown, out of control and ridiculous.
Yeah,
and I haven't watched the first bunch of them. I haven't watched any of them for ages, but like I never really went through and sort of watched everything. But one of the big ones I remember was one of the big things I remember getting into was that first part of the movie where the first movie just seemed like a straightforward sort of street racing criminal type thing, and then you watch like the fifth or sixth one, and suddenly they're all martial arts Africandos who are action heroes with guns and crazy cars and helicopters. I watched Hobbs and Shaw last year.
Yeah. I think
Start of this year. It's just, dude, it's so bad.
Yeah, it's just
I don't know, but it's bad. It's really, really bad.
It's got like this. Fast and Furious has this charm thing where everyone kind of looks at it. It's like it's just something that's there. Like it's something that's never gonna die. It's always they're always gonna milk it, and because it probably makes them a shit ton of money, realistically. And it's hard for me to hate it because it doesn't take itself seriously at all. I think all the actors and everyone on it know very fucking well what they're making and know what they are. So I just kind of look at it and I'm like, yeah, whatever. I like the original a lot though. I liked it a lot as a kid. I don't know if I'd like it nearly as much as I do as I would now, but
yeah, it's just I think that's an example of where there are so many sequels, and let's just keep upping the ante. Let's just keep upping the ante. More spectacle, more crazy stuff. Like just keep going and going and going and going. Make it crazier, louder, and brighter.
Controversial.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah,
boy.
I think
sequels.
Marvel hits this weird kind of spot with like sequels where it's weird. Like it's not as bad as other sequels for me, but I do definitely think that as they went along over time, it definitely did kind of get that formula to it. Like obviously, no one's going to disagree with that.
What's weird about Marvel is, in my opinion, is that you don't really. There are like it's all one big interconnected story.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
That's what makes it different. So when I'm talking about sequels, I'm like, there is a story arc. It gets resolved in that film. So 28 days later, yeah, and then it's resolved. Like it stands on its own. Same with you could say like there's sequel hooks, so you can open it up to there's potentially a sequel to this, but like it doesn't have to be there. It's just like, oh, we might make another one. So like Sherlock Holmes, the first Sherlock Holmes film, 2009, Guy Ritchie. There's a sequel hook. Moriarty stole some wireless stuff, technology, but Blackwood's dead. The day's been saved, etc. Sorted. That's it. Like it's standalone. It sits there nicely. It's good. I think, and then there's like the second one picks up from that.
As much as I do have problems with Sherlock Holmes 2, I think Sherlock Holmes 2 has a justified existence for the most part, where there was plot threads left open, there were things to do. I just don't think that they really captured a feeling for me as much. So it's less me hating it as a sequel and more just being like, it's great, it's fine, but
this is an example. This is exactly the example.
Sherlock Holmes 3, I would say, is definitely going to be like a good example of just like that kind of unnecessary sequel. In my opinion, it might turn out to be great. It might come out, and maybe in a year from now, I'll be like, "It's the best movie in the trilogy." I doubt it, but
I think that Sherlock Holmes Game of Shadows is a perfect example of the bigger budget. We can do more stuff. We're going bigger, we're going better, we're getting better spectacle, we're getting like crazier stuff, we're raising the stakes. And in a lot of cases, I think this is just endemic with the problem of Hollywood, because if you have a really good film, I mean, like, have you seen the first Rambo movie?
I have not.
Okay,
No.
you should watch it, dude. It's really good.
I do want to check it out someday.
Yeah, dude, I watched the last Rambo movie recently. Yeah, like it's out there. But the point of like the first Rambo film is actually quite well done. It was a massive hit. And it's nothing like the other ones that you see. You know, everyone knows Rambo is the guy with the red band around his head who just like rips people out with machine guns and just kills entire like hordes of bad guys and saves the day and does this and does that, right? The first Rambo movie is more of a psychological thriller, dude.
Oh, okay.
It's its own self-contained story. He's just a drifter who like comes into a town and then they try and move him on as a vagrant. He's like a Vietnam vet basically, and like no one knows what to do with him. So that is, he's like, it's a 70s, 80s film. And they're like, well, we're going to arrest you for vagrancy. And like the cops pull him in and they abuse him, they hose him down and treat him really poorly and like slap him and cut him. And it's just really full on. And then he just snaps and then like kills a bunch of them and then just like runs out into the local like mountains and forests and stuff. And there's this huge manhunt for him. And he sets up like booby traps and starts like living like he's a Green Beret, right? So he starts living like he's a it's almost like he's brought Vietnam back with him to America and he's one of the Viet Cong and they're hunting him. And it's really cool, man. Like it's really full on. And it's like they bring in the National Guard. It's a super good movie. And like Stallone really shows his range and his ability to act in this film. He's not sort of sitting there being this roided up lunatic with a weird set of the jaw and butchering lines. He's actually really good in it.
No, that's actually that's very interesting actually.
But then that does so well, right? So that's an example of this is a really good concept. This is a really good movie. Let's actionize the sequel. Let's just like pull out all the stops. We're going back to Vietnam. We're doing this. We're doing that. We're gonna have crazier kills. We're gonna give him a bow with explosive arrows, and then it becomes like a 5-movie series, and it's just like it becomes a hallmark of the 80s.
That's wild. I would never have predicted that the first movie was like that, just from like what the series is marketed as. That's interesting.
Or we can see the same with Alien.
Yes. Alien is a weird one though for me, where like I personally think the second one's a perfect sequel, where it does everything a sequel should. Where I love the second one. I prefer the first one, absolutely, but the second one's like still a 10 for me. I think the second one's flawless as well. It is a very weird exception to me for the rule, where I think the first one is phenomenal, and then I think the sequel is just as phenomenal. It's just like a little less what I want, but I can still look at it and be it's great. Because Alien is it definitely is that kind of bigger budget, let's have more aliens in it and just more like kind of action in it. But it is a really good action movie that expands to Ripley's character and adds more to the universe, in my opinion, that it ends up being a justified existence. I think the ones after that are a little more kind of that like example of just the budget getting to it, where like even the ones nowadays, they're just all CG and it's just all kind of like big like cinematography, like kind of big open shots and just being like, look how much money we have to make these shots, but there's no context to it. But I think the second one, Aliens, is a great movie, and I would heavily recommend it actually because you liked the first one, right?
Well, we watched it together. Yeah, it was pretty tense, man. Like, and that's the thing with me. I can watch horror films if they're about 40 years out of date, or from 30 years ago, and they're not terrifying.
Because Aliens is definitely more an action horror, but I think it's a really fucking great movie. It's just fun.
How about Terminator? I hear Terminator 2 is like. Have you watched the Terminator series?
I have watched Terminator. I think I've seen both the original two. Like I haven't seen the third one fully, but I watched them as a kid, and I haven't seen them in a while. But I vividly remember them because I really enjoyed watching them as a kid. But that is another one where people think the sequel is just as great as the first one.
I think I said it's better, and that's what put James Cameron on the map. Was the second Terminator movie?
Yes, yeah. I have more memories of the first one and liking the first one more, but I haven't watched them in years. So maybe if I watched them now, I'd change that. But I still think, from what I can remember of them, they're very fucking great as well. It's weird.
Like through this conversation, I'm just going to bring it back to a bit more meta for the moment. It's like we're mentioning all these different examples of like sequels where a sequel works, where a sequel doesn't work, right? And so in some cases, for instance, the actionized sequels. So let's go Alien, Aliens, right? Aliens, Aliens 2, Alien 2. Aliens 2, but it's whatever it is. It's like actionized sequel, bigger, better stuff, but like better than the first one. Mad. And then in other cases, what was one of the bad examples of this? 20 Days Later is a perfect example. Bigger, more actionized sequel, just completely lost the entire heart and soul.
Yes, yeah. It just adds nothing to the story.
What works with some sequels Shrek 2 is exactly the same. More stuff, more world expansion, meeting the in-laws, like everything else. The humor's still on point. The actors are still excellent. Like the second one's more family-based. It still rips with kids, but as opposed to the first one, which is kind of just like marketed as a kids movie with jokes in for the adults, it's like it brings it back into adults are watching this and remembering meeting their in-laws for the first time.
Yeah.
And like they can kind of relate to it on a more spiritual level.
Yes.
And so that's like why it sort of sits a lot better with a lot of people. So it seems that like just going bigger and better isn't necessarily bad, but there's something in a lot of Hollywood just milks the hell out of it.
I did want to point that out. I say that having a bigger budget can be bad, but it's like a double-edged sword, I guess. It can be really good. You can expand on it. You can really like optimize things in a lot of ways. And as a result, films can become better because of it. There are films that obviously have, but I do think there are some that kind of lose their focus from it as well, where it's just all about the budget. You can't just like rely on the bigger budget. You have to rely on like actually having something worth saying with the movie compared to the first one as well. Otherwise, people are just gonna be like, "Well, the first one's better."
Yeah, you have a vision.
It's kind of the same with I actually think it's this whole sequel concept. I actually find it interesting to compare movies to games actually, because I think sequels in games work better for the most part because there's kind of more optimal areas to make. There are obviously games that are exceptions, and I feel like I could think of you thinking of a bunch of games I hate that are sequels.
I'm running through a bunch right now, yeah, but we'll work on it.
Yes, but I think that I say this because I've been playing Fatal Frame, which is a horror game with a bunch of friends recently, and the first one's very, very jank, very old. It's like it's charming. I still like it, but I think I look at it and I'm like, yeah, this game's very kind of like hindered by the fact that it was kind of made on the PlayStation 2. But then we played the second one after, and the second one's such an improvement. Like it's so stunning how much more how much a bigger budget for them ended up paying off for them, where they were just able to make this great game. And we played a bit of the third one as well, and it's still just like a constant improvement. And I think there's a lot of games like that as well, where having a sequel can give them more to work with. They get a bigger team, they get more money to kind of factor into it all. But there are obviously some cases where sequels don't work. I hate DMC2. I don't like The Last of Us 2 as much, but I don't hate it, so don't attack me.
Yeah.
It's weird, but I think it works better for games than it does for movies because I guess having a bigger budget is a bit more helpful for games in a way.
I think because you go to while we're comparing genres here, movies are very much still a storytelling experience.
Yes.
Which means that the story needs to be better.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that is always going to be an issue because if we'll go back to the MCU for a moment, sequels tend to need to either continue the story or start telling a new story with the same characters.
Yes.
One of the two. So, and there might be an interesting mechanic in here where a good sequel hook leads to a better sequel rather than the other way around.
I think.
But that's dependent. A lot of people just leave. I think it's like with the writing, it's like we want to leave a sequel in here so we can make a second one and make a boatload more money, right? In some cases, it's actually, no, there is a continued story. I've got it all planned out. This is what we're going to go and do. And this is how it's going to be. So John Wick 2 picks up quite well from John Wick 1.
Yes.
John Wick 1 was its own thing. Could have left it there. No, they picked it up and they made like actionized the sequel. And the first one was pretty action-packed already. And then it gets spicier, more world-building, more stuff going on. It works. So the point is, like with a story, with a movie, it's still a storytelling experience first and foremost. Budget and spectacle are what they are. But you're trying to like continue a story or tell a new story with the same sort of concepts and characters. With games, you have story, yes, but it's integrated with gameplay. And if people love the gameplay of the first game, then if you put more stuff into it, give it more options, do more stuff with it, they're going to like the second one because it's going to be an upgraded version of the first one with everything they liked in the first one in the second one. Okay?
I think, games do have that edge of like, obviously...
Which is why I would assume that a lot of video games are always going to be better because the original gameplay loop was pretty good. So you don't need to do a huge amount. You're not going to overhaul the entire gameplay loop in a video game. You're just going to improve on what you already have,
optimizing
which works.
Yeah. I feel like a game like Fatal Frame, because I was mentioning it, because it was made on the PS2 and it was jank as fuck. Once they've got more money and a better hardware to work with, they can optimize it by making it a more playable game and continue to improve on it. It's like the same with Resident Evil. You look at like that game, that series' growth throughout the games, and you can see just constant improvement where they added things and optimized them until Capcom became sellouts and did nothing with the games in recent years.
Yeah.
No,
so after 4, it just went downhill.
Pardon? After 4, it went downhill. Basically for a bit. I think 7's good and 8's fine. I played for 8 recently, so yeah, I can.
Okay,
it's
cool.
good, yeah.
What is it about a sequel? This is, it's funny you just asked me about Sherlock Holmes. We're going to have a full-blown discussion about sequels, man. But I think this is a really important question. If you're going to create because you and I we do the writing thing every now and then, or we can create. I mean, and it's really fun that we're talking about sequels because this is season 2 of the Weekly
Yeah,
List.
I was actually just thinking that.
Meta
How
joke.
wild, yeah, how meta this is.
New and improved.
Sure.
But this is the question, right? So, or arguably worse. But like you're always gonna run into this thing. What makes a sequel good? And I don't have an opinion on that. I have some ideas. But let's say like you could look at Breaking Bad. The season 2 is better than season 1.
Yes.
It's a continuation of the same story. So yeah, it is better.
Yes.
You get more context, Usually, I would say in the case of Daredevil, season 2 sucks. Season 1's awesome. Season 2 sucks. But it's got awesome stuff in it. It's got awesome. It's got enough awesome stuff in it that it still kind of carries it. And season 3 is absolutely fantastic.
Okay.
As well.
You said Peaky Blinders is getting worse as well, right? That's like another example.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I love it. I don't. I think it's got to do with the spectacle and the aesthetic. And dude, Peaky Blinders is a soap opera for men.
That's actually such a fair comparison. I agree.
Dude, it's just drama. Like I am, as you know, I am a 12-year-old boy who loves like explosions and gunfights and all kinds of crazy stuff. And then I go to Peaky Blinders and I'll watch a bunch of violent alcoholics sit around and smoke cigarettes and talk about how they're getting screwed over by their criminal counterparts.
Yeah.
For 3 hours. I don't blink. Like I'm really invested in the B plot with their sister becoming pregnant and her husband being a communist. Like this, you know what I mean? There's nothing that happens that. You can count the fight scenes in the first season on 2 hands, dude.
Yeah,
it's not that there's no actionized sequels and stuff. You have the occasional bit of violence, but what's so good about it is the cinematography, it's the presentation, it's the
acting,
the richness, the acting, the dialogue, the way it's written. Like a lot of this works really well, but as you're going along, I think we need to keep pushing it because we're making so much money out of this and people are still so into it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's part of the problem. At what point do you this is getting a little bit meta for me, but at what point, because I'm thinking about us as a concept season 2, I'm getting distracted by that now. But at what point do you here's a better question to ask. Do you want to name some game and movie series while we're sticking to those? Because manga, anime, comic books, comic books is a completely different thing.
Mm-hmm.
And MCU is comic books basically in movie form, so we can leave that alone. It's actually better handled than the comic books, better written, but we'll leave that aside.
Yeah.
What series didn't need a sequel? I mean, we could say that 28 Days Later is a perfect example of that, right?
Yes, I would say.
But which ones?
The thing is that 28 Days Later is that the opening scene of 28 Weeks Later could have been a great movie if they expanded on it. There's room for a sequel in 28 Days Later because there's a lot that they could explore with the themes of the opening scene in 28 Weeks Later. I just don't like what the sequel is.
That's fair enough.
Yeah. In terms of stuff that I think doesn't need a sequel, though, I don't think The Last of Us needed a sequel focusing on Joel and Ellie again, is my opinion.
Okay, I 100% agree. I'll stretch it further and say that while they made some additions to the gameplay, I think the game suffers from it.
Yes. The game's just too long, is my opinion. Like, I think the story's got some interesting things. I honestly think if it was a shorter campaign, I probably would have liked it more. Like, I would have been less annoyed about it because I was playing it for so long. I do think that my main criticism of the 2 is that I just never believed that we needed more Joel and Ellie. I would have been completely fine with new characters. I would have been fine with Abby being the main character. Like, honestly, if it was just on her own and they were kind of like doing something interesting with her character. I even think her conflict is
focus on the sequel. We could go on about this.
Yeah. Let's not talk about that.
But just saying. But but also in terms of gameplay, right? Like I think that the additions they made to the game engine, like they hooked it in, they got a better quote unquote dodge melee system. Mm-hmm. You got explosive arrows, you can craft new stuff, more open areas, so it's less linear. I think that the original one was really cool because it was linear.
Yes.
Weirdly enough, it's like Uncharted. You just got cool set pieces and you just go from A to B. Mm-hmm. It's pretty straightforward, right? Like if you play the Last of Us, the original one, it's basically just tunnel. It's like going through hallways, but you got these sort of open areas and you got some problem solving you need to do, but it's just set piece, which is an awesome vehicle to carry the story through. That's what's really good about it. Mm-hmm. With the second one, you've got these huge wide open spaces where if you make one mistake, the entire thing just falls to pieces. So it forces you to play it like a stealth game.
Yeah.
Which I don't like. Because in the first one, if you had enough resources and you knew how to play and you're good at the game, you could go full Rambo on people. And I say that like not stealthy booby trap Rambo that you can play it like that, but you can go full on guns blazing, M60 from the hip. Like, let's just do things. Let's bust out a machine gun, just rip through everything, replay the game with all the stuff, play it on easy mode, collect all the resources you possibly can, and just pull out all the stops and go crazy. You can do that, but the second one you just can't.
Yeah,
really.
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot like
so I'm just saying, like, in terms of even with the games, like even with games and gameplay.
But in terms of gameplay, I agree with that.
Yeah.
It's just the second one's just like so restrictive in a lot of ways, but also like it's so open. But there's really, it's not like too fun to explore the game. By the end of it, I was just like ignoring areas.
Yeah, you're just like, I don't really, with the other one, you would scout every single, had you going through every single drawer that you could open, looking for weapons and stuff, or looking for ammo, or items so you could craft stuff that come in handy later.
Yep.
No, look, and the Rambo comparison is nice there, but we can sort of shelf that. I'm just saying that Last of Us 2 would be an example of where the story could have benefited if you set it in the same world. So here's another question for you. What's the difference between a sequel, a spin-off, and a reboot? Let's discuss this, because these are three different things.
Well, obviously a spin-off is just like, it's not. Sometimes it's not even in the same universe. It's just like a different. I don't even know how I describe a spin-off.
I'd say spin-off is in the same universe, but different characters.
Yeah, like different, meant to be a different story. Because I think there are some spin-offs that aren't actually in the same universe technically or whatever, so it gets vague. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what I consider.
Does 28 weeks later use the same characters from?
It doesn't use it, but it is the same world.
So it's a spin-off.
I don't know if I'd call it a spin-off. It's not. I think it is actually a sequel, but like, yeah. It's just like, that's the thing. There's this vague thing where a spin-off has to be really disconnected or just kind of different to the story to be considered a spin-off. And I don't know what it is that classifies it as that.
My definition would be one or more of the same characters in the same world with a radically different story that's unconnected to the main quote-unquote plot. That's my definition of a spin-off. So, what's a good example of this in it? And if you go back to games, right? And you can also number them. And it's sort of in between, isn't it? Because you can argue that, say, Borderlands 1 and Borderlands 2, by that definition, Borderlands 2 is a spin-off of Borderlands 1. Which isn't quite true. It's a sequel.
Yes.
Because it's the video game, right? So, yeah, I might be wrong on this. But I'm thinking more of, like, The Punisher. So if I go into Daredevil or The Punisher, it turns up in Season 2. It's the best thing about Season 2. He gets his own series, which is arguably better than, like, Daredevil itself. He gets 2 seasons of that. It's awesome. It's awesome, dude. Like, that's a spin-off series. That's not the original. That's not Daredevil. That's Punisher, right?
Yeah.
Likewise, Hobbs and Shaw, spin-off from Fast and Furious. Set in the same world, same kind of crap. Some of the same characters, but it's not connected to the other main sort of group of usual heroes. So that's when I think spin-off. That's what I think of.
Yeah, no, I get that.
It tends to be disconnected from the main plot.
Yeah, I get that.
But you're right. We can get a better definition.
So, it's such a weird definition. I'm still trying to think of sequels that I don't think needed to exist, but I noticed like so many. But like, it's weird for games because obviously people like, I hate DMC 2, but I don't hate that it exists. I just hate that it exists like it does because I love every other game in the series.
Yeah. I would say Last of Us 2 didn't need to exist in its form that it did.
Yes.
But everyone wanted a sequel. Everyone's screaming about it because gamers are a bunch of entitled pricks.
I've always said that I would have been... Oh.
What, sorry?
Oh, sorry. I thought someone like approached you, so I was like...
No, dude. I was just like, I'm an entitled prick. Hello.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
All right, my goof. But yeah, I don't think... I still say to everyone that I would have been completely fine playing a Last of Us game where you're playing like Fireflies or something, like in like a different, like either earlier or after Joel did it or something. I think the sequel is just a bit too ambitious, and people will either love it or hate it. And there's not much to say about it, though. I don't want to talk.
Yes, we've got prequels, sequels, spin-offs, prequels, sequels, spin-offs, and reboots. Oh my!
Yes.
And there's some cases wherein, like, I think reboots have worked really well, and people have really gotten around them, and that's actually kind of true. In, like, some games have fantastic reboots; they work really well. Yeah. They do something new while they still stick to the old formula. Like, it's pretty interesting. In movies, though, reboots typically suck.
Yeah, because for the most part, they're just fucking... It's either like remakes or reboots, and you look at Disney's remakes, and there's no fucking discussion as to why they suck. It's just unnecessary.
They are reboots, aren't they?
I want to call them reboots because
actually, let's get back to Disney. Disney's a weird one because they made a bunch of sequels. Most of the sequels completely sucked and didn't need to exist.
Because for the most part, their films don't need sequels. Like Aladdin's like done by the
Perfect.
end of the movie. There's nothing you
Yeah.
need to. There's no like mystery. The genie's gone. Like he's leaving. Why drag him back? It's
Yeah.
yeah. There's mostly self-contained for a lot of like a lot of the time. I can't think of a single Disney movie where I watched it and was like, that one needs a sequel at the end.
Well, they definitely thought. I mean, okay, I'm going to get into like straight up biased territory here. I love Tangled. 2010 Tangled. I absolutely adore that film. I watched it so much when I was about 14 years old. So when you were busy studying the Blade, I was watching Tangled and I was learning all the songs by heart. I bought like the OST, so I bought like the music on a CD. It had like 30 tracks on it. I learned all the songs. I was completely obsessed with this movie. And they brought out like an animated series of it, like a 2D sort of drawn series, as a sequel, Tangled Ever After.
I think I've heard of that actually.
And I haven't seen that. I'm kind of am really tempted to go and watch it, but I haven't seen it. Because Tangled is in of itself, but perfect. It is the perfect arc. It is completely self-contained. It's a fairy tale, man. All fairy tales have happy endings. No, they don't. Sorry, we're talking about the Germans. Definitely not. Fairy tales are supposed to be moral lessons. Disney fairy tale movies have happy endings. That's how it works.
For the most part.
They're based off some pretty, like, literally really grim, like Brothers Grimm type stories. Like, if you read the original Cinderella, it's kind of brutal.
Yeah, a lot of fairy tales are kind of fucked.
Yeah, but Disney, like, it's this whole like Disneyfication thing, right? So it's like, let's make it all sort of palatable and family friendly, and we'll slap it all together. But it's just interesting you talking about Disney earlier. That I just made the connection. I was like, Disney went through an absolute scourge in the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s of sequelizing the bollocks of all of their IPs that they're making.
Yes, they did.
Like, it was a problem, dude. It was a really, really bad.
Yes, no doubt. Yeah, they've got so many direct-to-DVD sequels, and just looking at some of them, I'm like, Jesus, this is bad.
Dude, I would love to do a case study of Disney for a pod. I think that'd be really interesting.
I think that would be a fun one, honestly.
Yeah, I think so. I'm just saying, like, it's interesting in that, like, a perfect example of what you were just asking, like, what doesn't need sequels? Disney movies don't need sequels.
No,
especially the classics. They do not. You don't need a Beauty and the Beast sequel. You don't need an Aladdin sequel. You don't need a Mulan sequel. I'm pretty sure there was one.
Oh, the Mulan sequel was awful. I watched that first.
Okay. Okay, right.
So I watched that first years ago, and I thought it was the worst fucking movie ever. And then I watched the original recently. I was like, this is so much better.
Yeah, that's right. I'm not sure if Pocahontas got a sequel.
But
like they were just sequelizing everything.
Yeah.
All of their biggest IPs were absolute crash hits, just cleaning out the market. Massive like animated pieces that were just gorgeous and stunning and like groundbreaking. Little of us sequels, direct-to-video sequels, because Disney's like, we need some money. And it was just brutal and it was soulless, and yeah, they just really don't stand up that well to the originals. So that's an example of sequelitis. Now, granted, I would assume that Disney's gotten a lot better about this lately. Because, well, I'd assume, I don't know. Because they're, yeah, I mean, if you're looking at the whole Marvel thing, it's not Disney, it's Marvel, but more or less the same kind of subsidiary. Their writing is so much better, man.
Disney now.
You know, as in Marvel's writing is fantastic. If you take the entire arc from Iron Man from 2008 all the way up to Endgame, and you can say what you like about the movies in and around that, because some of them are real good standout ones, some of them suck massively. Once you hit Endgame, Endgame had one of the biggest nerd boner catharsis moments I've ever had in my entire life. Like, watching Endgame was literally breathtaking. Yeah. It was sick.
It definitely feels like a culmination of like years of work, basically.
Yeah, dude. It was awesome. It was like an entire decade of just perfection, 12, 13 years worth.
Yeah.
It was awesome. It was just awesome. It was the best capstone. And now they're like, okay, we're going to do series and movies and keep going with it. And I'm like, okay. You gotta make money. You gotta do what you gotta do.
Exactly.
And everyone loves superheroes, and everyone loves comic books.
Make money.
Yeah, and that's what they're doing. But it's like, I'm just saying, in terms of writing, like all of that was a culmination towards that one point, which meant that it wasn't so much that this is a sequel to this. This is a continuation of the story, which interlinks to this, and they're co-referencing each other. It's a giant spidery web that all sort of comes into the center where the big spider is. You know, which is Thanos, and then you finish off Thanos, and you're good to go.
Yeah,
Yeah. So that's a good example. That's an example of good writing and using like sequels or sequel hooks to get people excited for the next one. It's genius, dude. Again, I could go on about the MCU for an entire episode because it's just like that entire arc is perfection.
Yeah, no,
in terms of how it's handled.
I do think MCU does a good job of building up to everything at the end. I know it's like become cool to kind of hate MCU now, but I still think they did.
Yeah.
I definitely have no interest in new movies at all, but
I'm not watching new Tom Holland films for sure.
I might watch his.
Sorry.
There's some there's
Spider-Man. I'm gonna watch the Spider-Man movies.
some exceptions that I might watch every now and then, but yeah, I'm not very interested in the new next era. I guess I'm kind of like, yeah, whatever.
I am, but I'm just a massive superhero nerd generally, so that's neither here nor there. But yeah, sequels are weird because sequels. Prequels. I think prequels are a weird one because it's like let's put a story beforehand. Some prequels are really good. Some really suck. I don't know. I mean,
yeah.
What's your opinion on prequels? Do you know of any prequels that were better than the original?
Red Dead Redemption 2, I guess. That's like the only one I can think of because I like Red Dead Redemption.
But it's funny because it's numbered like a sequel.
Yeah, I know, yeah, but it is like a prequel. But I think that's a good example where they like add to it. It's the same for a prequel. They just need to add something to it. There's got to be a reason for why you're going back there, like to explore things. But for the most part, I think prequels are kind of weird because they fall into this like trap of like just trying to explain everything or like kind of be fan servicey, like the Star Wars films. Like that Solo movie.
That's a good example.
Awful. Yeah, I hate that movie, and it's like fucking meant to show how Han Solo came to be what he was, and it's just awful. It makes him look so lame.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, but the prequels...
he's a lot cooler. It's just Harrison Ford.
Yes,
Harrison Ford things.
Yeah, the prequels for Star Wars are like notorious example. They've been done deaf as well. Everyone knows why those prequels suck.
Yeah, there's no need to sit there and like rip on them. Although Revenge of the Sith is still sick.
That's the third one,
I
right?
like that movie a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm neutral towards that one. But yeah.
Moving on.
Yes. Well,
But I'm just thinking, it's interesting that like prequels,
bringing it all to a point, we are considering everything we've said about sequels.
Yeah.
Are you keen for Sherlock Holmes 3, Pete?
I'll watch it, man. Excited. It's like, okay, I can go through a fucking checklist that I was making when I was thinking, I heard you talk about that because I've been keen about this movie for 10 years. Here's why I think for this movie to work, this is what I think needs to happen. Okay? Let's put it out this way. The last movie was pre-World War I.
Yeah.
Okay? So that was happening. All right. They need to bring everything back to London. And this is why I thought Richie kind of got a bit... I'm saying, like, he's not perfect. I like the film. I like it a lot. I like the style of it. I like the stakes. Like, it's cool. It's sort of engaging. It's pretty dark. The atmosphere is perfect. It's very good. It's sort of globe-trotting. You're going away from London. They need to plan it back firmly into London. They need to explain his resurrection correctly.
I think London would be a good setting to go back to, actually, yeah.
They have to. I mean, if they're following the stories on any kind of planet,
Yeah.
Put it back in London. Bring the stakes of the story back down. It needs to go back to the interpersonal relationship between Watson and Holmes.
Yep.
And your villain, if you like, needs to be a little bit more homegrown, possibly a little bit more personal. Just the stakes need to be smaller, but a lot more serious on a personal level.
Yeah.
For Holmes and Watson. I think that's how you're going to do it. I think you need to bring back that psychology of London.
I think the IMDb page implies that Moriarty is going to be in the third film.
Man. No. You killed him. It's just...
That would be real bad, in my opinion, if they did that. They should not do that. I heard the IMDb page is wrong there, because that would be awful.
Oh, dude, I mean, like, in the story, like, they're following in broad strokes what the original stories had, and Holmes did fall off a cliff, and that's how, like... That's how Arthur Conan Doyle went, stuff you, I'm not writing this character anymore. I want to write about some kooky occult space travel shit. And also, give me that opium. And everyone, like, there was just such a massive outrage with his fans that he brought him back. The Return of Sherlock Holmes. And it was still sick. Like, there's a noticeable shift, but, like, the later stories are still just as good as the first ones, if not better. Because of the Adventures of Sherlock Holmes collected, then you had the novels, and then you had, like, the Return of Sherlock Holmes, which is, like, the last kind of case book. I think, by Conan Doyle. And and the end of it, it's like basically just explain that Holmes does like some fancy trick and he, plunges off the cliff, and then they come back to London, and the sniper dude in the second one?
Yes.
Colonel Sebastian Moran. He becomes a problem in the very first story where Holmes comes back and realizes that, you realize he's still alive. Right? So that's like, it'd be interesting if it was a manhunt with Moran, except that he's smarter and he's got like a huge amount of intelligence, and he's like, it's a cat and mouse game between Holmes and Watson and this sniper, bringing Watson's wife into the crosshairs, Mrs. Hudson. Like, it could be a very interesting game of cat and mouse around the city, using deductive reasoning. It's like the guy's a really good shot, but you got to figure out where he's going to be and what he's going to do. You know what I mean?
Yes, no, I get you.
And it'd be cool if Moran got some, I think he's actually one of the actors from Peaky Blinders now, I'm thinking, right? That guy. It might be the same dude as Arthur. I could be wrong about that.
I can't remember. It's been so long since I watched Sherlock Holmes 2. I just remember that there is a sniper guy.
I know the sniper guy. I think he's actually in Peaky Blinders, but anyway, that's neither here nor there. But that's so. How excited am I? I'll watch it, dude. I'll watch it because I love the chemistry between Jude Law and Robert Downey Jr. And I really hope that they keep that cinematography that they had. I hope they keep the story, like they keep the way they shoot the fight scenes, the music, the atmosphere of London. I just want it all to come back, and I want like this sort of triumphant return where everything works out really well. And it'd be really cool, man, to be honest, if they just put a capstone on it. It's like, this is the end.
If that would be my preference, obviously, that they don't make anything else after this one. I am obviously the pessimist, and I think that the movie's not going to be that great. I think I might see it just out of interest, though. I think I agree with you that I would probably go and see it. I don't have much expectations, though. I think the fact that Guy Ritchie's not directing it is just a massive mistake, honestly.
Yeah, but maybe he's more interested in doing other
Oh
stuff.
yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I don't mean that they should have got him or something. If he didn't want to make it, then I just don't think they should have made it. If he was like had no interest in it, because I just don't think anyone would capture the charm as well as he would.
Guy Ritchie's going in some interesting directions. I don't know if you saw the Wrath of Man.
I saw the trailer for it.
Pretty good movie, man. And I think you might. Do you hate Jason Statham?
I don't hate
Oh no,
him.
that was the other. No, that was the other guy.
The other guy, yeah.
Hated him. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. So, yeah, he made this like really interesting crime thriller, psychological thriller type thing with like Jason Statham actually pulling really good duty as a like dramatic lead. It's really interesting. It's shot in like 3 different parts. It's super sort of French noir art house type stuff. It's pretty fascinating, and Post Malone's in it, so
okay.
take what you will. Yeah, but anyway, it's interesting, man. I'll watch Sherlock Holmes 3 for sure.
Yeah,
but yeah, that sort of concludes that. I don't think we managed to say anything actually impactful about sequels, prequels, or whatever.
I think we discussed it at least. Someone's probably would listen through that ramble and be like, "Damn, these guys talked for an hour, and I don't fucking think they said anything important."
It's like we're talking about topics. So what does that really mean? We're just talking about a whole bunch of stuff we like and a whole bunch more about stuff we hate.
We basically talk about what we think sequels are, what they're bad, and then we applied that to Sherlock Holmes 3 very scuffedly. But yeah,
there you go.
Our opinion: Sherlock Holmes 3 is gonna suck. Moving on.
Okay. Okay, man.
I think.
Do you want to call it there, or should you got another topic you want to sling around? Some.
I've got a small topic. I had one other topic, but I'm afraid we'll talk for way too long about that one. So I'll talk about my more minor one because I think this will be a thing. So I think the last time we recorded, I think I mentioned that I got a PS5 and that I actually hadn't had many thoughts on it or something. Since then, I've played a lot.
So we're doing a PS5 product review.
No, I actually kind of want to talk about it because I kind of want to talk to you about the next gen with consoles for a little bit, and I don't think this will be too long because I have some interesting thoughts on it. So since then, I played a couple PS5 games. I played Resident Evil 8, which came out this year, and I played a game called Returnal, which is probably my game of the year right now, and that game is really good. And earlier when I last talked to you about it, I hadn't played anything really. I just kind of got it, and I think I played DMC5 Special Edition, and I was like, it was fun. But I've already played it before, so it's hard to compare it. But now I've played some more, and I've actually played around with it, and I'm actually kind of more on board with it now. I think that it's ridiculous how hard it is to get it.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of comical, honestly, how ridiculously rare it is and how people are fucking almost killing each other over it. It's like going down to riots and fucking grabbing the box and running through. My friend was dropping it off, and I told him, I was like, you might want to hide it in a bag. Someone might actually rob you on your way over. And he was like, fair.
Yeah.
But
put on some body armor, throw it in the back of an armored truck.
It is pricey, but like I kind of look at it and like some of the hardware in it is fucking probably like justifies it in some ways, but I'm not a tech nerd. But I think I will say that the one thing that has sold me over it completely is I think the controller is the best like console controller ever. I am completely on board with the controller. At first I thought I think if you could refer to me a year ago, and I probably would have said that the controller would be the most gimmicky shit ever and it's going to suck hard, I completely stand against that statement now. I think the controller is great.
I got to play around with PS5, so I'll give you my thoughts after you're done.
Yeah.
But yeah, controller's sick.
Yeah. I don't know what games you played or anything, but my opinion was that it would be very, like, the kind of adaptive triggers and that would be very gimmicky and that they wouldn't really add anything to it. I basically had that opinion until I played Returnal, which came out, I don't know when it came out, but it is a bullet hell run-based game, and it is really fucking good. Like, it's really fun. It's a AAA game. It's like the first AAA game since DMC5 that I thought was, like, really fucking great. Like, a standout game. But it's got, like, the adaptive triggers work so well with it, and just playing, I was like, this is fucking stunning. It basically adds 2 new buttons because being able to lock in the triggers makes it basically means that you've got like 2 extra buttons, like the way the triggers, the R2 and L2 triggers work now, and it's just I'm surprised by how much I love it, but it works so well. And this is basically me just going to be simping over Returnal as a game because I really think people should play that game. And if they have a PS5, I would say probably wait for it to be on sale first though, because it's like $100 now, and that's something else I'll talk about in a second. But just from what I played compared to before, I think the PS5 is actually incredibly impressive, and I'm very keen to see what next gen games will be like. Now, if you want to talk briefly about your opinion on what you
I played Hollow Knight on it, bro. I did not get to put the hardware through its paces at all.
Yeah.
Because like the person I had, they had like Miles Morales Spider-Man, like the sequel.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to play that. I was just like, eh. And I swung around through the city for a bit, and I was just like, this is exactly the same as the old one, dude. Like nothing. It looks pretty, but for me, man, like I'm not. As a general rule, I'm not a massive graphics whore.
No, I completely agree with that as well. Yeah, I don't care.
You and I mean, I know you don't, because you and I, like, you definitely don't care because you love like indie games with super simplistic, super straightforward art.
Mm-hmm.
You're more interested in interesting design and like interesting, pretty stuff to look at.
Yes.
Like we can go talk about Valhalla for a second. I don't know, self-reference that we haven't released that yet, but that game is beautiful.
I mean, we'll have released it when the episode comes out. I hope.
Fair enough. But yeah, so there's like it's beautiful. Valhalla's beautiful, and it's like so 8-bit. It's like that sort of real crunchy kind of visual novel style, but it's done in it's just anime-esque, but also pixel art. Like it's this really weird little blend of just beautiful things, and it's so simple. You basically do nothing except a little drink mini game and then listening to characters talk. It's awesome. And that doesn't need like crazy graphics or anything. So I'm not massive on graphics, dude. So I don't have one either. A mutual friend of ours does, and he won't shut the fuck up about it, but that's neither here nor there. A big part of it's just like, you got Doom Eternal or whatever. I don't think there's enough games coming out on the PS5 for people to be able to go to showcase all the graphics and stuff. I haven't heard anything about any new games coming out that have like wowed me. But I've also kind of just disconnected myself from the hype train. So I don't really know what's going on anymore with this.
Genuine criticism with the PS5 is that right now it is almost not worth it because there's like next to nothing to play on it.
Yeah.
And the games that are there are incredibly expensive. Like the newest Ratchet and Clank game that came out, apparently like one of my friends like said that he basically platinumed it in like 2 days, like of like just playing it casually, because it was like that short, and it was like $100 game. I was like, that's fucking ridiculous. I would not. I don't want. I love Ratchet and Clank, but I don't want to spend that much money on the fucking game. And Returnal, I think I played for like, I think it said I played for like close to like around like 50 hours or something. Like and I borrowed it from a friend, so I didn't pay for it, but I think I will buy it eventually because I really love it. But that's a game where I was like, it's close to like being worth the price, but it's still, even then, I'm still like, I wouldn't pay $100 for it. Maybe like 60 to 80 is where I'd pay for it.
Yeah, I don't know when games started getting so expensive. Maybe they always were.
I don't know too much about it, but I think PS5's like the console exclusives, they are more expensive or something. I can't say too much about it, but I completely agree with the criticism that it's ridiculous.
Yeah, the PS4 was like, it was still $100 for any new games that came out on that, And like you would go back and try and find older games, like you want to play Black Ops 2, like a Call of Duty Black Ops 2, like the last good Call of Duty game, in my opinion. I'm not going to get into specifics. That's still $100 on a on a PS store.
Jeez,
maybe more, maybe less, maybe it's like 70 or something, but it's still like $60. It's still retail price when it came out on the 360 back in the day. Like it hasn't shifted, it hasn't gotten cheaper because they're just milling money out of it. It's insane. But yeah, no, I agree. Games are way too expensive. The console itself, it basically functions as a dude. Honestly, what I was like, just looked at. This is actually really funny because it's in theme. Sequels, bro. This is the sequel to the PS4, right? And in keeping with what we're talking about, video games, it is just the perfect example of a good sequel of a games console. The PS4, in my opinion,
I agree. I feel like I already know what you're saying.
Yeah, in terms of consoles, the PS4 is like perfect. In terms of last gen, I didn't like the X-Bone at all. I didn't like the fact that it ran Windows 8. I didn't like the fact that, and they brought out the second gen. I just don't like Microsoft.
Yeah.
The game company's kind of whatever. And all the Xbox One exclusives were just garbage. Like, they were just like, let's recycle Halo. Oh, Halo 5. And like Anthem, which failed. Like, most of the time, there was just nothing going on the Xbone, on the Xbox One. The PS4, dude. when that shit came out, that controller redesign that went from the PS3 to the PS4, I remember like holding the Xbox One controller thinking, this is kind of really sick. Because all of my muscle memory is wired to 360 controllers. I was a 360 boy, I was never a PS3 boy. And then when I actually got to hold a PS4 controller for the first time, play fighting games and stuff on, I was like, this is the perfect controller. Right here. PS4 controller. I use it to play Tekken on my PC. Any controller-based games on my PC, I use my like I have a plug-in and I just use my PS4 controller on that shit. Because that's how much I love that controller. Like, I adore it. And then I picked up the PS5 controller. And this is the thing about the PS5, right? It looks like a fucking spaceship.
Yes, it is incredibly big. Like, it is ridiculously big, but...
But even just, like, it's sleek the way it looks, the design of it, it just looks like a fucking spaceship. The controller is exactly... It's still a DualShock, like, 4 with, like you said, adaptive triggers, a very interesting little texture, like the way that it... Just tactile, like, sensation, the way it pushes stuff back into your hands, man. It is just, it's an improvement over what I would say is the best, like, handheld controller known to man. They took the DS4 and they made it better.
Yes. Well,
I do have
to voice that I personally think the jump between PS3 and PS4 isn't incredibly great, in my opinion. I think the PS4 has better hardware, but I didn't really feel like there was a massive improvement in games or anything, besides graphical stuff.
Okay, fair enough.
And I do agree that the PS4 controller is better there.
I jumped from Xbox, so I was going from 360 to PS4. That was sort of my blend. And this was also on top of this, man. Like, another thing I really didn't like about the Xbone at all. Initially was this Windows 8 sort of setup. The menu was like, it was supposed to be just get an Xbox and then that's your entire like home media setup done.
Yeah.
They tried to market it less as a games console, more of you don't need anything else. This is a media center. And then like when you go through, the menu sucked so much. And the PS4 just had really intuitive, beautiful menu screens. Everything works out. Everything's smooth. Everything makes sense. PS5, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, dude. All they did was just open it up, shove a whole bunch of better shit in there, make it run smoother, made the console like roughly the size of the president's nuclear football. You know, like you would need to handcuff that to your wrist and get a carry handle if you want to walk around with it, take it to your mate's place. I agree with you, because they're so rare and everyone wants one. And yeah, it took everything, streamlined it, made it better, made it a little bit more futuristic.
Yeah.
But it doesn't feel different. Like, I'm just like flicking through it and going, looks awesome. And if you've got like one of those massive fuck off like LCD TVs, like the 4K TVs, it looks really gorgeous in the title screen. But again, I'm not like into graphics and stuff. I don't sit there and sort of drool over really nice pixels.
Yeah, I think graphically, like, I can see the improvement, but I think like the thing that's got me so hyped about it or like so on board with it. And like I said, I'm going to be talking about Returnal the whole time because I think this is the first really good PS5 game in my opinion. But I think that game works so perfectly because it is on the PS5, and I don't think it could work on the PS4 or previous gen or anything. I think the way the gameplay works and how it takes advantage of the controller is great. I think that the gameplay loop works really well with the performance of the PS5 because there's no loading screens. The performance is great as well. There are some parts in the game where there's like a zillion fucking particles on screen fucking about to kill me, and there was no frame rate drop for me at all. And I was just sitting there like, this is fucking impressive. I don't care about like performance or great graphics at all normally, but I can't help but look at this and be like, that's a fucking massive improvement. And I think because with the PS4, there was obviously great PS4 launch games, and playing PS4 games from jumping from PS3, I was always like, these games are fun. But I never really felt like, wow, this console is going to bring out some big hitters or something. I was just like, there's just going to be really good games. With the PS5, though, I'm actually somewhat looking at it like, there's some cool shit you can do with this, and I'm very on board with seeing how this goes. I'm very keen to see what next gen will be like.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a whole bunch of nerds in the comments just being like, yeah, PC Master Race.
Yes. Yeah,
and that's fine. And I get where they're coming from. But, dude, in terms of just consoles, like, yeah, you can't deny it's a beautiful piece of hardware.
Yeah, I think it's super good, and I'm keen to see what comes from it.
Okay, here's a question for you. This is probably going to come out in the PS5. Actually, it's probably going to be a PS5 exclusive. Elden Ring.
Oh, Elden Ring.
Yeah, Elden Ring. Are you going to play Elden Ring when it comes out?
I'm one of my friends is a massive like fan from software games, and he's very keen on Elden Ring, and I always kind of feel bad because I'm not very enthusiastic about Elden Ring at all. But to be fair, I haven't played Dark Souls. I've only played Bloodborne. That's the only one I played from Software, and I love that one to bits. I don't really like George R. R. Martin that much. I don't think he's that great of a writer, and from what it looks like, I think he might be a bit more in charge of writing than I would prefer. So the simplest way I'll put it is, I don't think his way of writing will work with the subtleness of the From Software games. I have hopes that it's good, obviously. I don't want them, because they've got a good track record. Even though I've heard some people say they don't like Sekiro, people still think that it's really good. So obviously I'd like for their track record to continue and for them to keep making great games. But I am kind of like cautiously watching Elden Ring. I don't think I will ever play it because I haven't played Dark Souls, so I doubt I will.
I'll see what happens.
Yeah, Next Gen, pretty cool.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see the anime big titty fighters that come out. I'm sorry.
In half seriousness, though, you are going to have a lot of 2D fighters coming out on that console, like Japan exclusive 2D fighters.
Yeah,
that, like, your Blaze Blues and everything else.
probably. Guilty Gear Strive is the first one, and I think Strive's a really pretty game. It's pretty impressive, and the loading screens are pretty good. It's provided that the people you're playing against are playing on the PS5 as well.
Yeah, if they're not, it gets a bit rough. No, I think there's going to be a lot to be said for updated like stuff. I'm not going to jump right on the PS5 train. I
don't think you should.
I don't think it's worth it. I always wait anyway, man, because what tends to happen with these things is they bring out the new console, and they're just having supply issues because of COVID and everything. But at the end of the day, like, my usual thing is, like, the original PS4 comes out, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everyone goes absolutely ballistic over it. Then they bring out, like, the PS4 Slim and the PS4 Pro. Mm-hmm. And it's like, when the PS4 Slim comes out, you buy all the old ones.
Yep.
So it's like, you've got the Gen 1 PS5, right? And they're going to bring out, like, a slimmer, more sort of whatever version of it at some point, I assume. That's going to happen once they get rid of their supply issue. And then you'll just, it's okay. So I'll just get one of the massive clunkers that's the Gen 1 PS5, and while everyone upgrades to the new one.
Yeah, you're completely right.
And they'll be ready to go. I think that's just a smarter way to do it, because if there is any kinks inside of the PS5 right now, there doesn't seem to be, but if there is, they'll iron that out by the next model. So
yes.
I win. It's just like, I pay less for it too.
I completely agree with that. Like I said, I don't think there's enough games to justify buying it. I just I got it, and I'm kind of like, this is fun. I feel like I basically got it for DMC5 Special Edition. I'm not gonna lie. I'm a complete Virgil simp and just got sold over by that. But I've got it now, and there's games coming out, and I'm optimistic that games will be good. I have a lot of hope for the games that are to come, and yeah, I think it will be worth it in the end. But I don't think it is incredibly worth it now. You should definitely wait. If anyone listening was holding out on it and is for some reason listening to this 36 subscriber channel for actual feedback on whether it's worth it, I would say wait until either the next lineup of consoles comes out, like where fucking PS5 V2 comes out or whatever, and buy one then, the original one or something. And yeah, by then there'll probably be more games out, and maybe some of them will be cheaper and actually at the price that they should be worth paying for.
Fair enough. It's a pretty good assumption there, man. But hey, look, this is another example of games companies, like games mechanics, all the rest of it. Like, when it comes to gameplay, dude, sequels don't hurt most of the time. Most of the time. Some cases they do, but in this case, definitely.
This was an incredibly meta episode.
It was a bit, and I like that, man. I like the way it feels. I like the way it tastes. Good. It's delicious. Yeah. I'm about it.
But yeah, that's probably the end of the episode. We've been talking for like an hour and 18 minutes, yeah.
Well, we hope that everyone's still doing well in lockdown. You guys are all keeping well. Our 36 subscribers and other void walkers out there who find us. I hope if you find this like 20 years in the future, then
he's lagging out on my end, so I hope people can actually hear him properly.
I was just saying, I hope that anyone out there in the plains of the void.
Is that their name now, Void Walkers?
I don't know, man. It sounds like way too edgy and pretentious.
Well,
but we can go with it.
We are.
Yeah, fair.
No,
yeah. And also, if you listen to this 20 years in the future, there was this thing called COVID, and it was a massive pain in the neck. All right, neat.
Yeah, the government's trying to cover it up. But yeah, that was an episode. If you want to leave a comment, We might talk about it in the future if you do leave a comment, because we will probably run out of ideas eventually within like 3 weeks.
And you could probably also join our Discord if it's ready to go by then.
We'll see.
Okay.
We'll see if I get around to doing it.
No promises. All right. Later, nerds.